You are not tired. You are not weak. You are not stuck. You are simply living far below your true potential, and deep inside, you already know it, don't you? That silent voice inside your mind which tells you there is more to life than this is not imagination. It is your real identity trying to wake up. And in this very moment, you are going to discover what most people never understand in their entire lifetime. The change does not begin in the world outside. It begins in a single decision inside your mind. And once that decision is made, your entire destiny starts shifting in ways you cannot even imagine. Today's message is inspired by the powerful principles from the legendary book Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, a book that has transformed millions of lives by revealing one simple truth, that your life is not controlled by your conditions, it is controlled by your decisions. And if you learn how to master those decisions, you can rewrite your entire future from this exact moment. Now listen carefully, because what you are about to hear is not motivation, it is a mental awakening. Most people believe they need more time, more money, more opportunities, more support, but the real reason they stay stuck is because they are addicted to their current identity. They keep repeating the same emotional patterns, the same excuses, the same fears, and that repetition slowly builds a prison inside their own mind, a prison that looks invisible from outside but feels heavy from inside. And the scariest part is that most people start believing that this prison is their reality. But the truth is, you are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your circumstances. You are the power that can choose a new meaning at any second of your life. Imagine for a moment that every human being is controlled by two invisible forces, pain and pleasure. Every decision you make in life is simply an attempt to avoid pain or gain pleasure. But the problem is not this system. The problem is programming, because your mind has been trained over years to link pain with growth and pleasure with comfort, which is why you avoid discipline even though you know it will improve your life.
And you chase comfort even though you know it will weaken your future. But here is the turning point. The moment you consciously change what you associate pain and pleasure with, your entire behavior changes automatically, without force, without pressure, without motivation. Think about it. Why do some people wake up at 5 a.m. every day even when it is hard, while others struggle to even get out of bed? It is not talent, it is not luck. It is simply because their brain has linked pain to laziness and pleasure to discipline. And once that wiring is changed, transformation becomes natural. Now ask yourself honestly, what do you associate more pain with right now? Working on your goals or staying where you are? Because the quality of your life is not decided by what you want, it is decided by what you are willing to suffer for. Every successful person you admire once reached a point where they refused to continue their old identity. They drew a line and said, "This is not who I am anymore." And in that moment, their new life began. The human mind is not designed to change slowly. It changes in moments of decision, in emotional peak states, when something inside you finally breaks the old pattern and forces a new direction. And right now, you might be feeling something similar, because deep truth always creates discomfort before it creates transformation. Now, let's go deeper, because understanding your mind is the key to mastering your life. Your brain is constantly filtering reality based on beliefs, and beliefs are nothing but repeated thoughts that you accepted as truth without questioning them. So if you believe, "I am not good enough," your brain will find evidence to prove it. And if you believe, "I can learn anything," your brain will also find evidence for that. Which means your identity is not fixed, it is trained. And anything that is trained can be changed. The biggest shift happens when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because the meaning you assign to pain determines whether it destroys you or develops you. Pain is not your enemy, it is your signal. It is life telling you that something needs to change, but most people numb that signal with distraction, entertainment, and excuses instead of decoding it and transforming it into power. Now, imagine if from today you stopped reacting emotionally to every situation and started responding consciously. Imagine if instead of saying, "I can't do this," you started saying, "How can I learn this?" Imagine if instead of quitting when it gets hard, you saw difficulty as a sign that you are growing. This single shift alone can change your entire trajectory. Because success is not a one-time event, it is a pattern of decisions repeated daily, and your habits are simply your repeated decisions in disguise. If you want a new life, you do not need a new dream, you need a new standard, because what you tolerate becomes your life. If you tolerate laziness, you will live laziness. If you tolerate inconsistency, you will live inconsistency. But if you set a standard that I do not negotiate with my goals, then your behavior will slowly align with that identity. And here is the most powerful realization from everything we are discussing. You are always one decision away from a completely different life. Not tomorrow, not next month, not someday, but right now in this moment. Because decision is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. People wait for motivation, but motivation is temporary. What you need is a decision so strong that it creates discipline even when motivation disappears.
And yes, there will be days when you feel nothing, when everything feels heavy, when your mind tells you to stop. But that is exactly the moment that defines your future. Because champions are not built in comfort. They are built in resistance, in repetition, in refusal to quit when it is inconvenient. So ask yourself again, if nothing changes in your life for the next 5 years, will you be proud of the direction you stayed in today? Or will you finally decide to awaken the giant within you, the part of you that has been silent, waiting, watching, ready to rise the moment you stop doubting yourself? Because the truth is simple and powerful. You are not here to live a small life. You are here to expand, to grow, to break limits that you once believed were permanent. And the moment you accept responsibility for everything in your life, even the things you did not create consciously, that is the moment your power returns to you. From today, stop negotiating with fear. Stop delaying your potential. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Because perfect time does not exist. There is only time and what you choose to do with it. And if you take nothing else from this message, take this. Your life will change the moment your decisions become stronger than your excuses. Because excuses cannot build a future, but decisions can rebuild a destiny. And right now, this is your moment. This is your line. This is your chance to awaken the giant within you and finally become the person you have always known you could be. So, if you are still here listening, it means something inside you has not given up yet. And that something is exactly what Tony Robbins calls the giant within you. The part of you that has been buried under years of doubt, fear, conditioning, and repetition, but it never died. It only became quiet. And silence does not mean absence. It only means waiting for activation. Now understand this clearly. Your mind is like a machine that follows instructions, but the problem is most people never realize they are the programmer, so they keep running old instructions like I am not capable, I am unlucky, I always fail, and then they get shocked when their life keeps producing the same results. But your life cannot change until your instructions change. And the moment you change your internal language, your external reality begins to bend in response.
Think about your daily life for a moment. How many times do you repeat the same thoughts, the same complaints, the same emotional reactions without even noticing it? That repetition is not harmless. It is programming your identity line by line, day by day. And that is why awareness is the first step of transformation, because you cannot change what you are not aware of. Now imagine if you started observing your thoughts instead of obeying them. Imagine if every time your mind said, "I can't do this," you paused and asked, "Is this a fact or just an old fear speaking?" That one question alone can break decades of mental limitation. Most people think confidence comes from success, but the truth is success comes from confidence, and confidence comes from evidence.
And evidence comes from action, which means the cycle always starts with action, not with feeling, not with motivation, not with perfect conditions. This is where most people get trapped. They wait to feel ready, but readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision followed by action, and action creates momentum, and momentum creates identity shift, and identity shift creates permanent change. Now listen carefully to something very powerful. Every time you avoid doing something difficult, you are not just avoiding work, you are reinforcing an identity of weakness. And every time you push yourself, even when you don't feel like it, you are building an identity of strength. So the real battle is never outside, it is always inside, between two versions of you, the version that wants comfort and the version that wants growth. And whichever version you feed more becomes your reality. This is why discipline is not punishment. Discipline is liberation, because discipline frees you from emotional slavery. It frees you from impulse. It frees you from regret and gives you something most people never experience: control over your own destiny. But discipline alone is not enough if your emotions are not aligned, because humans do not act based on logic alone. They act based on emotional intensity, which means if you want to change your life, you must change what you link pain and pleasure to at the deepest level. Right now, maybe your brain associates pleasure with scrolling, sleeping, avoiding work, escaping responsibility, and associates pain with effort, study, consistency, and discomfort. But that is not truth. That is conditioning, and conditioning can be rewired. Tony Robbins teaches that lasting change happens when you interrupt old patterns with massive emotional force, not small adjustments, but a clear, decisive shift, a moment where you say, "Enough is enough. This is not who I am anymore." And that moment becomes a turning point in your identity. Now I want you to visualize something deeply. Imagine two versions of your future self. One version who continues your current habits, your current decisions, your current excuses, and another version who decides today to change direction completely. And now fast forward 5 years, both versions have completely different lives, different energy, different confidence, different opportunities, and the difference between them was not talent, not intelligence, not luck, but a series of small decisions made daily. This is the hidden truth nobody tells you. Your future is not created in one big moment. It is created in thousands of tiny moments where you even choose growth or comfort, truth or excuse, action or delay. And every delay has a cost, even if you don't see it immediately, because time does not punish you loudly. It punishes you silently by taking away opportunities you were not ready for. Now ask yourself, how many opportunities have already passed you because you were not in the right state of mind, not in the right discipline, not in the right focus? And the painful truth is this: those opportunities will not come back, but new ones will come, only if you become the type of person who can recognize and handle them. That is what transformation really means, not becoming someone else, but becoming who you were capable of being all along. And here is where everything becomes real. Change is not easy because your old identity will fight back. It will tell you stories like "start tomorrow," "you are too tired," "you will fail anyway." But those thoughts are not truth. They are resistance, and resistance always appears right before breakthrough. So when resistance shows up, you are not failing, you are actually closest to growth. Most people stop at resistance, but winners push through it, not because they are stronger, but because they have trained themselves to act even when the mind is noisy.
And slowly, over time, something incredible happens. The voice of discipline becomes louder than the voice of doubt, and that is the moment when you start feeling different, thinking different, acting different without forcing it, because your identity has shifted at the core level. Now, if you're listening carefully, you will realize something very important. Nothing outside you needs to change first. Everything inside you needs to change first. And once that inner change happens, your outer world has no choice but to follow. This is the awakening Tony Robbins talks about, the moment when you stop living as a reaction to life and start living as a creator of life. When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Watch me." When you stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself permission to rise. And right now, in this very moment, you are standing at a point where most people choose to remain the same, but a few choose to break the pattern, and those few are the ones who build extraordinary lives. So the question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you will decide to change before life forces you to. Because life will always move forward, but the direction depends on you, and the power to redirect it has always been in your hands. And if you truly understood even a fraction of what you just heard, then something inside you is already shifting, because truth does not need convincing, it needs acceptance. And once accepted, it becomes action, and action becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it. And for more such powerful and life-changing content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay happy, stay safe, and keep working on yourself.